What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble. Joined alongside Emilio in Tennessee. We got Tim in Green Bay here to talk some Packers this evening as the mandatory minicamp is obviously already wrapped up. Got a couple other storylines to get into. We're going to continue to do our best to bring you daily content. That's the goal here. And we're going to dive into a lot of fun topics here in the off season. I know we got several things to talk about this evening. We're going to get into a little salary cap talk. I'm excited about that. We got an awesome poll question. All right. I want everybody to do me a favor right now, whether you're on X or on YouTube. We got the poll question up in both locations. The poll question was, this is tough. If you could only keep one of the following, who would it be? Would you keep Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love, or Brian Gutekunst? Again, if you could only keep one of the following, who would it be? Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love, Brian Gutekunst. We're going to hit a couple topics, and we're going to come back to it to give everyone time to vote on that poll question. It's tough too, man. It is tough. Obviously, it won't let me vote, but I'm sitting there going, I got it narrowed down to two, but it's still kind of tough. It's kind of tough, but I know my answer. I definitely know my answer. So anyway, let's go around the horn real quick. Tim, you got anything, man? Anything to start with? Anything on the forefront of your mind or anything at all?
No, not really football related, but just ready to talk some ball though. Whatever we got on the table tonight.
Absolutely.
All right. What about you, Emilio? Anything at all, man? Anything you listened to here lately, or?
Yeah, I'm always trying to dive in. The All 32 pod. So all I would say is we're blessed that the Packers dive in and do a little bit of personality research and figure out who these kind of guys are, and not even that, but also like treating them right and with respect. You give respect, get respect. The Bengals are in a little bit of an issue over there, man, with TJ, with Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart, both not wanting to be there, and Shamar Stewart leaving practice early on the last day because of contract talks, because of negotiations, and I'm just thankful that I'm a Packers fan. That's all I can say, because it's not like it's just these two guys. Like they've had it before. Are we going to pay Higgins? Are we going to pay these guys? And even on the GM shuffle, the other dude talking, he's like, oh yeah, you know that the Bengals are just a bad team that doesn't like to pay their players. They didn't want to pay their safety, right? And then they go off and get a young gun, and all right, fine, because safety's not important to pay. It's like, I don't know, man.
And I'll just say this, like, this is how I feel like the Bengals have screwed up. And then I want you to start the conversation with how they got in this pickle with specifically the first round pick, Shamar Stewart. But think of what we talk about building a roster, right? Tier 1 positions, defensive tackle, edge defender, left tackle, and quarterback, right? Now, timeout. They are refusing to pay Trey Hendrickson, edge defender, tier 1 position. Shamar Stewart, they're getting really, really crabby in the negotiations there with the language within the rookie contract. The numbers have already worked out. Again, another tier 1 position, right? You mentioned safety. That's a tier 2 position of importance, right? That they just let go. Now, who did they pay? They paid 2 wide receiver 1 money. And here we are talking about them being one of the worst franchises in the league. And Joe Burrow is kind of carrying the water. Like he's the thing that's making this thing go. I mean, he truly is a truck, right? He's pulling the trailer. The problem is the trailer got a flat tire on it, man.
That's an expensive trailer, man. You don't have run flats on that thing. That could be a problem.
Exactly.
But no, I think you're right, Clay, because on the Shamar Stewart thing, he's obviously the numbers are already set, right? The CBA did all that, and with him wanting to sign, he wants to play, right? He's in the NFL first time. Let's get it. Let's go. They're trying to take away his injury money, or they're trying to already negotiate his injury money. That's, saying like, if he doesn't play the full season, or if he gets hurt, or this and that, we're going to take, more money away from that so that you don't get, you're not taking home as much. And they're already the dude hasn't even played a snap for him. And they're already trying to take the man's money from what he worked, his entire life for to sign this. And they're the ones that drafted him. You know what I mean? It's like, why would you draft the guy if you're not planning on paying him?
And I was also hearing another angle, Tim, where they were saying it was more about and this could have been coming from the team side, and you guys know how this is when something gets into public, it becomes a PR or a what am I trying to think, a PR kind of jockeying for position type conversation. I was hearing that the language was off the field stuff. If you get into anything off the field, that Shamar was wanting it fully guaranteed, and we all know the rest of the league don't operate that way, right? Yeah. Especially with a rookie contract. So,
right.
And I'm not saying you're wrong and I'm right. I want to say it was Adam Schefter that said that on maybe.
I think I heard, mine was on the All 32 pod. They were talking about it.
Got it. So, and you know what? It could be both.
Right.
Yeah.
It could be both.
Both could be true, right?
Yeah. What do you think about it, Tim? I mean, it's one of those issues too with Shamar Stewart. Now it's easy for some fans to go, well, this is Shamar Stewart's fault, this and that. And I've been on the record saying, boy, we dodged a bullet there. You know, me personally, you can blame the Bengals because there is a track record of that.
Yep.
But you also look up and it's like no other rookies across the league are having this issue. Right. But then you come back to the Jaden Higgins draft pick. Where was it? Arizona or Houston, wherever it was.
Houston.
Mm-hmm.
They fully guaranteed that, and they got that signed real quick. And he was a second-round pick. So, Tim, it's like, I don't know, man. It's probably a little both, but I tend to lean toward it being the Bengals more than Shamar Stewart, you know.
I would agree, but I'd also think that if you're comparing, you know, my boy Jaden Higgins, I mean, and Shamar Stewart, obviously one of them comes with some extra baggage off the field, right, than the other. So maybe that's a considering factor. I think it's a great example of, you know, comparison is the thief of joy. So you've got a rookie looking at another rookie going, hey, he's fully guaranteed mine, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think all of this, it's not even about who's at fault. Cause like you said, all these things could be true at the same time. It could be a little bit of all these factors, but I think it all points to, you know, the reason why, like, I just believe, you know, Cincinnati is just, you know, they're another 8 or 9 win team again this year. I mean, like they kind of have been.
And after you spend all that money, right, Tim? Like,
right.
That's brutal. That's tough. That's tough to bring it back to your fans. Like, no, I got you a quarterback and 2 wide receivers. Like Madden told me to do that, and now we're good, right?
And a really good quarterback, right?
Yeah,
you know, Joey B is really good quarterback, but they got an uphill battle there in Cincy for sure.
And the irony in the whole conversation of us talking about the Bengals and like you guys specifically remember or mentioned in the wide receiver situation there in the offseason, we were getting roasted for saying we don't want T. Higgins. And there was a portion of our fan base going, man, you got to go get T. Higgins. He's a true number one. He's a true number one. And it's like, slow down. What are we trying to accomplish here from a roster standpoint?
Yeah.
T. Higgins does not put you over the top. T. Higgins doesn't play left guard against the Eagles when Elton Jenkins goes down. You know what I mean? Like, that's truly what happened. T. Higgins doesn't – here's the other thing. T. Higgins doesn't prevent Jordan Love from throwing interceptions in those crucial situations last year. Yep. If anything, he causes you to force the ball down the field into coverage more because hey, that's a number one receiver. Let's bomb it deep to the jump ball guy. You know what I mean? So that's where you got to really kind of step back and all right, what are you trying to accomplish? And it's obvious what both Goody and LaFleur are doing is, hey, let's lean into the run a bit and let's play defense. And again, you got the Bengals refusing to pay edge defenders, the sack leader last year, refusing to pay him. Right. And what did we do? A portion of our fan base roast Goody for locking up Rashawn Gary, who led our team in sacks, led our team in quarterback pressures, and led our defensive line in run stops. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's just two totally different, you know, ends of the spectrum. Coach Land in the chat says you drafted Hendrickson's replacement and you won't even pay him. It's a bad look.
And they didn't pay Hendrickson, right? So you're telling, it's like, I feel like you're not paying your gas or your electric bill, but you're over here buying a new TV. You know what I mean? Right. It's like, we need to square that away a little bit.
I think you just did a quick recap of my early 20s.
You know what? As much as we talk about Cincy, it's important to remember we've got those guys coming out of the bye, right?
Yeah, right.
On the schedule. And, you know, like I said, they're like that 8 or 9 win team, maybe a 10 win team, something like that. They're one of those teams where you want to kind of laugh, but you cannot afford to write them off. They could come in and steal one from you. Relatively easily. So you got to take them serious either way, no matter how much of a dumpster fire things appear to be right now.
Right. All right. Well, let's move along. There's just something real quick. We won't spend a whole lot of time on this. I thought this was cool, though. Bill Huber put this tweet out. Quote, I think really what I ran into most of my career is everybody wants me to do everything as opposed to letting me get really good at one thing first. This was a quote from Isaiah Simmons, a newly acquired linebacker. Now, listen, I'm not expecting Isaiah Simmons to come out and be a Pro Bowler, right? But I love that what Bill Huber pointed out here was, hey, it's a 1 year prove it deal, first of all. And what Bill Huber points out is what Isaiah Simmons was saying. With the Packers, Isaiah Simmons is happy to be focusing on playing linebacker, right?
Mhm.
Like, not trying to force him to do too much. Now, we mentioned multiple times, it's nice to have a player that if you do get somehow, some way in a pinch, you can throw him back to safety, right? You can let him rush off the edge a little bit if you're a little bit light, if you have, 2 or 3 injuries in one game, that type of thing. But it's obviously not a part of the original game plan. Now, I'll say this too, like most of the viewers last night were pointing out, man, the safety room is real deep. I think it was Holmes pointing it out, maybe Deadfish. The safety room is so deep, you ain't even got to worry about that. We're really 5 deep at safety. That doesn't mean they're all 5, starting caliber, but you feel pretty good about those 5 on the roster. So I thought this was cool, though. Everywhere Isaiah Simmons has gone to play, they haven't let him just settle into one position. So now what you're going to get with Isaiah Simmons is he's going to be battling with Isaiah McDuffie and Tyron Hopper for that 3rd linebacker spot. I don't know about you, Tim, but I kind of like his chances. That's not to knock the other 2 guys, but he seems like he's really, really comfortable. He's really kind of at ease. We played the video. Matter of fact, I think we got the video right here, Tim. I don't think you've seen this one yet, sir. Let me hit you with this one real quick. So anyway, he looks like he's loose. He looks like he's just fitting right in with the Green Bay Packers. I don't know. How do you feel about it, Tim? I think it's awesome. He's going to get a chance to actually settle into one position.
So do I. And this is another guy, much like we talked about McCole Hardman, kind of middle of the career kind of path, right? Not getting older, but not an old dog quite yet. Some experience and a chance to kind of settle into a role and a chance to, win a spot on this team. My only concern is that a progress stopper for a guy like Tyron Hopper or something, like I don't see Zay McDuffie not making this team. I just don't see it happening. I think it would be between maybe Simmons and Hopper for that last spot. And then, the ladder goes to the practice squad or something, but I am looking forward to camp and just really getting a good look at him, up close and personal. But we know he's got a ton of value as a special teamer. Like that goes without saying. And then the experience factor. And then, his chance to kind of play into Jeff Hafley's system solely as a linebacker and not having to be a, slash multitasker kind of guy. Because we have enough of those. We've got guys that we talked about. Hell, we had Bo Melton out there playing DB. We've got guys that can be versatile in a pinch. It's nice to have a few where it's like, hey, here's your job. Put your head down and just go do what you need to do and focus on your position and your duties. So I'm excited for Isaiah Simmons. I would just hope he doesn't, ultimately end up being a progress stopper for some of these younger backers,
Yeah, definitely.
That's it. I think I'm hoping, Tim, that, he can bring in some of that veteran experience and just kind of teach him a little bit here and there. Pointers, him and Quay bounce ideas off each other, help Hopper, help Coop. I think it's going to be a team effort.
Yep.
Yeah. White 009 in the chat says, I think I saw somewhere that Half told him to focus on being the Will/Sam. So who's the Mike, Quay or Coop? So essentially what's going to happen here, White, is we're going to be in the nickel about 70% of the time, which means there's only going to be 2 stack backers. Okay, so probably 20 to 25% of the time, there'll be 3 backers on the field. When you're talking Mike, the Mike and the Will and the nickel is very interchangeable, especially within halfway. Really, any defense I've seen across the league, it's very rare that they're like, okay, this guy's just going to strictly be the Mike. One common misconception is if someone wears a green dot, they're the Mike. Well, that means that they're the guy calling the plays in the huddle, right? That means they're getting the radio call from the coaching staff, yes. But that doesn't mean they're going to line up as the Mike every single time. Like typically the difference between the Mike and the Will and the nickel 4-2-5 that we run, which is 4 down linemen, 2 stack backers, is the Mike is technically on the strong side of the formation, okay, on the tight end side of the formation. So the Will is on the weak side. But there's going to be many cases where that Mike will fire and the Will cover the seam, whether it's a 2 mid read, a 3 mid read, or if you're wanting to run a true Tampa 2 top look. And then vice versa. You want to fire the Will and let the Mike cover the seam. So they're very interchangeable in that regard. Now, when you get to when you get to the 4-3 aspect, where you got a Mike, a Sam, and a Will, the Mike being the middle linebacker, the Sam being the strong side backer, and the Will being the weak side backer. Typically, what you want to do there is you want to play, like an over front to the field side, and let the Will kind of act as an extra pass rusher. If need be, he'll fit to set the edge off the weak side of the formation, and then you allow the Sam and the Mike to be those gap destroyers on the strong side of the formation. So when I look at Isaiah Simmons, he's way more versatile, like in terms of his athletic ability. Now he's a little bit older now, but still, what is he, still 27? Am I thinking right, guys?
He'll be 27 this year, I think. I think he's 26 right now.
So if you were to ask me, 4-3 defense, where would you want Isaiah Simmons? Let's say Isaiah Simmons is the third backer. So you've got Coop, you've got Quay, and you've got Simmons. Me personally, I would want Coop as the Sam, Quay as the Mike, and Simmons as the Will. That way Simmons can use his versatility off the backside, off the weak side. And in my opinion, I feel like Edgerrin Cooper can handle setting the edge on the strong side of the formation against a run better than Quay. And with Quay being the Mike, if you do have that Tampa 2 call and even that cover 6 mix that half ran last year, if he has to cover the seam, that's what Quay does well, is flipping his hips and covering the seam. Now, Cooper can do it too. We've seen it in Jacksonville. Right. But I just feel like what it comes down to is they both can cover the seam, but Cooper is way better at the point of attack and attacking the run, reading and recognizing the run, using that quick first step, that start, stop, shoot we talk about. That would be my setup. I want to ask you guys, how would you see the base 4-3 if Isaiah Simmons was the starting backer? Who would you want at Mike, Sam, and Will? You go first, Emilio.
Yeah, I think Mike is still going to be Coop. Quay. I think that I'm totally with you on Cooper at Sam, and I honestly think they can kind of flip flop. I think Isaiah Simmons can do it. I think he probably could play a little bit of that Sam, and he also has the ability to cover, so that's why I do like him at that Will spot. But I really think that with those three, we'd be in pretty decent shape, right? They've made an attempt. I think Ed set it up here. I think that was a great point. The Packers really changed how they value inside linebacker, a first, a second, a third, and Simmons. And to add to that, Greg Cosell always talks about the speedier defense come from your backers, right? Being able to read, react, scrape, get sideline to sideline. That's where a lot of your speed comes from on defense. And he knew that he had an opportunity to come here. As the 8th overall pick, I feel like a guy wants to show up and improve and make a name for himself. Here's the spot to do it, right?
Yep, definitely.
I just verified it too. Isaiah Simmons will turn 27 on July 26th. So right at the kickoff kind of camp, right? Yeah. So he'll be 27 this year.
Yeah. What do you think, Tim? Would you still want to see Quay playing the Mike in the 4-3, or would you rather him maybe coming off the edge?
I like to mix it up, but I'm going to go with Emilio. I'd take Quay as my Mike. Edge Coop will be my Sam, and then I would take Simmons as my Will.
Yeah, and
interchangeably, of course, as we've talked about.
When you said
all three of these guys can play in all three of these roles.
Right. And when you said mixing it up, it immediately made me think of like one scheme to the other. If you're playing your base 4-3 and you're going up against a 2-back set, then obviously 2 backs equals 2 gaps. You want someone who can shoot those gaps a little bit more in the run fit. Maybe you kick someone like Edgerrin Cooper to Mike and let Quay play off the edge, and then, you know what I mean, kind of attack it that way. And it's where when I hear people who claim to be professional, Packer talk people, I guess you could say sports talk guys, and they just blanketly mention, this player getting blocked by a tight end, this player just getting blocked. And it's like, what was the play call? Who was the team you were facing? What was their strengths and weaknesses? Like there's all those things come into factor week in and week out. So, and I don't fully understand it. I don't have time to dive into the entire game plan of a team and do the 4-week saturation, the last 2 head-to-heads and all those things. We try to cover it as much as we can before game day. But when you just kind of, blanketly speak about it, it irks me, as you can tell. So let's see what Ed Madden said. He said, I'm hoping Simmons can tighten up our pass coverage over the middle. if he was drafted in the third round, everyone would be saying great pick with the production he's had. I completely agree with that second part there too. I'm hoping, personally, I'm hoping that Tyron Hopper wins that third job, because that means that wasn't
taking a step, right? Yeah.
I don't want to say that if he doesn't get it, it's a wasted third round pick, but you want that third round pick to step in there. And then look at your backups. It's Isaiah McDuffie and Isaiah Simmons. You feel really good about that linebacker room, you know?
Yep.
I
feel really good about Tyron Hopper getting every single opportunity to win that spot as well. You know, they're going to push that, give him every chance to go ahead and make this team in that role, you know?
Yeah, and we've been talking versatility. We haven't even talked about Colin Oliver. Like, Colin Oliver might fit right into that. They may get into camp and they go, you know what? Colin Oliver's the third best stack backer, and he'll just bypass everyone. They also could get into camp and go, wow, this guy's got some serious bend and quickness off the edge. Let's let him rush as kind of that hybrid outside linebacker, like a Leo or a Viper, that type of look. So it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be – I'm telling you, this camp is going to be absolutely awesome. Coach Lynn says that he's a ball of clay. You can mold him into what you want him to do. I just would not trust Cincy to use him correctly. Shoot, they can't even figure out how to pay him. Talking about Shamar Stewart. That's very well said. Very well said. All right. So there you go. Just a little Isaiah Simmons talk. I thought that was pretty cool. Let's get back to the poll question now. Again, the poll question was, and this was a tough one. I hated to answer it myself. The comments on this tweet are hilarious. Let me go ahead and refresh it one time, make sure that we get the most up-to-date here. If you could only keep one of the following, who would it be? Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love, or Brian Gutekunst? We have 247 votes so far over on X, and we're just about, it was roughly an hour ago. So, we got a pretty good saturation here. Leading the way is Jordan Love at 59.1%. Matt LaFleur is second at 31.2%, and Brian Gutekunst is third at 9.7%. Now, going to our YouTube stream, Jordan Love leads the way at 53%. Matt LaFleur, 31%. Brian Gutekunst, 17%. So it's in the same exact order.
Wow.
Both X and YouTube, they all agree. So I want to ask you guys, and I don't care who goes first. You fire away. You guys decide amongst yourselves. Who would you pick of those three? Who you keep?
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
I love Jordan Love.
Emilio's afraid to get roasted right now. I love it.
No, I'm not even afraid to get roasted. It's just I'm real bad at making those tough decisions, you know? I love Jordan Love. I love Brian. I think I'm going to go with Matt, though.
Matt, got it. What about you, Tim?
Yeah, I'd probably go with Matt first, and then J Money, then Goody. So, Matt LaFleur, if I can only keep one.
I completely agree. And the fact that everyone is choosing Jordan Love other than us, that gives me a lot of hope, boys, in Jordan Love right now. Now, why am I choosing Matt LaFleur? Me personally, he won with Aaron, obviously, right? Aaron coming off of a down year, went back-to-back MVPs under Matt LaFleur's offense. He switches to a quarterback, didn't skip a beat. First-year starter, they go to the playoffs. They get a huge playoff win on the road at Dallas. Then last year, with his quarterback struggling and battling 3 injuries, he goes out and leads the team to 11 wins. And I say that because people say even with 3 injuries, they won 11 wins. They got 11 wins with Jordan Love last year. Now, 2 of them came with Malik Willis at the helm. So we've got to mention that. The fact that Matt LaFleur on a short notice was able to take Malik Willis and just like, hey, let's mold an offense around him. And Emilio, we've seen it firsthand in Tennessee. It looked like Malik Willis and Matt LaFleur have been working together forever. That's probably the tiebreaker for me is how he handled that situation. And of course, he's just one of the all-time highest, winning percentages as well as a coach.
Right. Add to that, coaches can be around longer than players can, right? I mean, Matt could coach for an extended amount of time. And to the point of Malik Willis, that would Mike and Wes were talking about that on Packers Unscripted, and they both said how did we get so lucky in getting Malik Willis? How did the Packers know to go out and, they knew that Tennessee didn't want him? How did they know to go out and get a 7th round pick, spend it on him? Because they were saying they would have been too far down on the waiver claims for Malik would have been gone by that time, right? So go out, take that chance. He came in late in the offseason. They gave him a couple weeks to learn it, and then it's like, bam, you're starting. Like J Love got hurt week 2, you're starting. Week 3, you're starting. Matt LaFleur, Tom Clements, right? He helped, but the fact that Matt was able to game plan, get him ready, get wins, and get out of there with 1, 2, 3 separate quarterbacks now. I mean,
yeah,
I really think he's doing his thing, and I would put my money on him moving forward.
I agree. That's a testament to Matt as a head coach. I mean, you got to think that he really, really quickly probably sat down with Tom Clements and Malik and said, "Hey, let's put together a package. What kind of game plan do you want? How do you want to attack, your opponents these next couple of games?" And I'm sure we know about Malik Willis. He can hum that tater, but he can also tuck that ball and run. And he's great in the play action game too. And you saw that we went run heavy and, just pounded the rock and got out of there with some wins. So that's a testament to our head coach, man, being able to be flexible like that. I mean, if you can win with a backup, you can win with a Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, and you can win with Jay Money, a young star on the rise. I mean, it just shows the flexibility in his ability to put together a game plan. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and the other aspect of it too is like the running game. You go from Aaron Jones and running a wide zone scheme, essentially.
Yep.
And then you bring in Josh Jacobs. And in less than a year, right, one off season, you flip it to pretty much a duo heavy running game. And you're running between the tackles and matching up play action off of that and doing it out of the gun because your quarterback was banged up and couldn't get under center. Like, there's just so many factors. I'm like, yeah.
And you're willing to change, right? You're not stuck in your roots. You're not that's how Andy Reid, has gotten to where he was. He was kind of a different coach. Let's work it around. Let's move it. And your offense is always changing. And I think that Matt can go with the flow, right?
Yeah. Ron Sample says Matt can go if we can keep half. I love Matt, but it's hard to get a quarterback. So what he's saying is he would choose Jordan Love and promote Jeff Hafley, right? Here's the thing about that too. If Jeff Hafley's promoted, who's your OC?
You better have one hell of an OC, man.
Yeah. And on top of that, Tim, the thing that sticks out to me, and I understand your point, Ron. I think it's a great point. I really do, because Haf is head coach material. There's no two ways about it. But we love Hafley, right? And we give Jeff Hafley all due credit. He deserves it for what he did with that defense last year. Can someone remind me who handpicked Jeff Hafley as the DC? I think it was Matt LaFleur, right? Tupac LaFleur himself. So, that's another feather in his cap that you would think, okay, he could potentially go out and find another Jeff Hafley, essentially. If Jeff Hafley gets promoted to a head coach somewhere else next year and Matt LaFleur has to replace Jeff Hafley, or just – that's the other thing. Look at the depth in which he's built this defensive coaching staff.
Yep.
Like, you've got a Derek Ansley and a DeMarcus Covington and some of these other guys ready to step right into a DC role, right back into a DC role. If Hafley was the head coach, you're trying to find an OC. Who do you go get?
Right.
Because Ben Johnson is a head coach now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who is the top offensive coordinator in the league right now? I can't think of. There's not a name. It used to be Ben Johnson, right? But now he's got a head coaching job. Who would it be?
Get ready to go.
I'm genuinely asking, who would that guy be, right? So, and you guys know I'm very partial in this regard. I believe your head coach should be an offensive coach.
I agree.
It's not to say that defensive coaches can't do great things, but look at the dynasty right now you got with the Chiefs. Andy Reid, former tight end coach for the Green Bay Packers, play caller for Mike Holmgren there for, I know, at least partially there 1 year. He goes to the Eagles and has great success, didn't win the big one. Then he goes to Kansas City, and he's arguably one of the greatest coaches in the history of the game. Now, people like to immediately point to Bill Belichick because that's a great defensive coach. Bill Belichick was literally helping Tom Brady draw up game plans on offense. Bill Belichick taught Josh McDaniels everything he knows about coaching, and he was the guy behind the scenes creating that offense with Tom Brady as well. Bill Belichick is a well-rounded, or was in his prime. I mean, the guy's damn near 80 years old, or however old he is now. So I can't think of
another play caller, right? that's another factor too. Like you can have an OC or you can have an offense or defensive minded head coach that's putting in your scheme and installing everything. But at the end of the day, who's your play caller? And we've got a lot of we have some gripes with Matt with some of the jet sweeps on 3rd and 1 or whatever, those kind of things. But other than that, I give Matt like an A- as a play caller. I mean, just brilliant play calls over his tenure as head coach. So it's scheme, it's offensive mindset, but it's also like in the heat of battle, like are you on top of that call sheet?
Right. Ed Madden says Matt picked half, Goody picked Matt LaFleur and Love. Hell, let's keep all three. I'm all about keeping all three, but I do want to correct you there, Ed. It's my understanding. There's many people that think that Brian Gutekunst hired Matt LaFleur. He did not. It was Mark Murphy that handpicked Matt LaFleur.
I was going to ask. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, and because I remember Mark Murphy specifically talking about, when Mark Murphy essentially hired Brian Gutekunst. When he interviewed Brian Gutekunst, it was literally, he said he went back and looked at the scouting reports, and Brian Gutekunst hands down had the most accurate scouting reports of anybody within their front office, right? And then he went and handpicked Matt LaFleur. Now, did Goody have some say in it? Probably, but that was Mark Murphy's baby.
Yep.
This isn't
what did Mark say? He said the same thing. Matt was the most prepared candidate that they
crushed the interview. Yep. I remember when they hired Matt LaFleur. Me as a fan, I wasn't doing this podcast yet, but I what do we always do? You immediately go look at the OC, the offense's number. He was the OC in Tennessee. Let's go look at how good he did. I went, this guy sucks.
Yeah.
Right. And then you dig a little deeper and go, oh, this is Sean McVay's dude. Gotcha. Maybe just Tennessee sucks.
Right.
Again, why did their offense struggle so bad? Who was their head coach? It was Mike Vrabel, a defensive-minded head coach.
Yep.
Somebody remind me, how did that end? He got fired, right? Like it's just constant sock. But it doesn't mean they can't catch lightning in a bottle and go on a run. We've seen Rex Ryan coach really, really well for the New York Jets when he wasn't talking about foot fetishes, right? He did really, really well, but he could never win the big one. And when it falls apart for a defensive coach, boy, does it fall apart. I mean, it's like you need that. I feel like you need that offensive-minded coach. Who was the last coach to win a Super Bowl for the Green Bay Packers? It was Mike McCarthy, right? Yeah. OC, quality control coach coming up, micromanager, his old quarterback camps, they're legendary. You don't believe me? Ask Aaron Rodgers. He was the OC in San Francisco the year before, right? So offensive-minded coach. Before that, who was the last coach to win a Super Bowl in Green Bay? Is Mike Holmgren, another former OC for the San Francisco 49ers, right? So
the only exception to the rule might be a guy like Mike Tomlin. And even Mike Tomlin has struggled. It's been tough to get over the hump as a defensive coach. I mean, you look at them bringing Aaron out there, it makes all the sense in the world, right? They're gonna let Aaron Rodgers do whatever the hell he wants to do with that offense. Yeah. So you're right, Clayton. I think I'd rather have an offensive minded head coach all day.
Ed Madden said, my bad. Thanks, Clay. No, all good, man. And like, again, I've heard numerous people say that, and you guys fact check me on it. I'm almost positive that's how I remember. I just want to bring that up, Ed, that I'm pretty sure it was actually Mark Murphy that handpicked him. Go ahead, Amelia. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Because I was going to ask that. I'm glad that Ed brought it up. But, Tim, to that point, the Steelers, they were, I want to say it was 32 pound, one of them, they were asking, it's like, all right, this is the first time Aaron Rodgers is going to have an established head coach when because I mean, it was, Mike McCarthy was kind of young and stuff. They I guess the dynamic they were talking about, like Rodgers going over to Mike Tomlin being this is my place. You're not going to really get, your complete way. I'm just wondering how that's going to kind of go, right, with him going into like a head coach that has a lot more tenure, a lot more assertiveness in that locker room.
I would agree, but I think if you factor in the relationship between the two, we know the history between Aaron and Mike Tomlin. They got a lot of respect for each other. So I think I'm sure Tomlin would probably put his foot down and say, hey, this is how we do things here. But when it comes to the offense, I think Aaron's going to have a lot of input. He's going to have a lot of, leeway and a lot of freedom running those checks and audibles, things like that. So, it'll be interesting really to see how that turns out. Looking forward to going to Pittsburgh for that game this year.
Yeah.
And, the thing about Mike Tomlin, I remember when he was hired, and you won that Super Bowl really, really early. You guys realize like the culture was the backbone of that Pittsburgh Steelers team that won a Super Bowl.
Yep.
Right.
You know who built that culture?
Bill
It
Cowher.
wasn't Mike Tomlin. It was Bill Cowher.
Yeah.
Bill Cowher built that culture. And it's like the farther you get removed from Bill Cowher being in Pittsburgh, you see it taper off. What is it? They haven't had a playoff win in how many? Was it over 10 years? What was it? When was the last?
Playoffs?
Tim, how are you that damn fast?
Seriously, I wasn't even ready for that. I want to say it's been over 10 years, Clay.
Yeah. Let's see if I can
They
pull
went to 2 under Tomlin and they won 1, correct? Of course, they caught that L in 2010.
They only won 1. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or was their last win in 2010? Like when they were making their playoff run?
Their last playoff win was in 2015. So this is 2015. So
And so that's, I think, what you get. You got a defensive-minded head coach. You got a team that wins. They make the playoffs consistently, but you're not really getting over the hump.
For 10 years, you haven't won a playoff game.
it's crazy, bro. Like, and what's crazy too is his overall record in the playoffs in the history of his career, 8-11. So, yeah, it's just, again, I'm not trying to dog Tomlin. I'm just simply saying that's a perfect thing right here. You got Mark, Ed Madden. Tomlin's had to deal with some big personalities, so at least he's experienced. That's a very good point, right?
He's going to have no problem handling DK and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, guys dealt with AB, and, there's been plenty of that's a great point by Ed Madden there.
I don't know, man. I can't cut Tomlin as much of a break as most people do, because, like, how did it get to the point where Le'Veon Bell sat out a full year and he never played for you again? How did it get to the point that Antonio Brown thought it was okay to film a video from the locker room during a locker room speech? Like, that stuff doesn't just kind of happen overnight. You know what I mean? So, and, the other thing too could be the way that they've drafted. They've just kind of pushed that personality stuff off to the side a little bit, and that's why you got to appreciate the way the Packers truly run their organization. What's your problem, man?
Hey, fam. He said, hey, Clay, there wasn't an option for none of the above on the poll.
Of course. AFAM
Unbelievable.
So AFAM is saying he wants to get rid of Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love, and Brian Gutekunst, all three.
But updating the poll number here on YouTube, Clay, it looks like Jordan Love 47%, so he's come down a little bit. Matt LaFleur 28%, he's come down a little bit. Brian Gutekunst 26%.
We all know that AFAM's just in here killing time until the Chiefs podcast.
He's on every one of his burners. We know he has 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, he's
sit your butt outside.
Unbelievable. Here, I thought it was going to be the safest, fairest poll question in the history of poll questions. Unbelievable. All right, anything else on that? I thought that would be just kind of an interesting little conversation there, man.
For sure.
Good.
Yeah,
right.
That's a good one.
Soder says Roethlisberger was an ass in his private life, but was stable as a player. Different when the quarterback is personality driver / problem. Yeah. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds with this, but the whole Roethlisberger thing, he owned up to it, and he's since then turned his life around. I know he acknowledged that he had an ego problem. He acknowledged that he was a womanizer and all those horrible things, right? But one thing about Ben, you ask a Steelers fan how they feel about Ben, he is considered, and listen, he's got less championships to the best of my knowledge, but he's considered a much better quarterback than Terry Bradshaw. Now, it's mainly because Ben embraced that Pittsburgh area.
I mean, he's no Cordell Stewart, right? But,
Bro, Cordell Stewart's got a special place in my heart, man.
For sure.
I was a Steelers fan back then when, me and my brother rooting for the Steelers when I was just a kid. And Cordell Stewart / you guys don't know about Cordell.
Yeah, watch the tape.
His nickname was / because he could play running back. He could play wide receiver. He could play quarterback. He punted a couple of times. He could actually punt. You can go back and watch him at Colorado, I believe it was, so the Hail Mary. Emilio, you need to go watch.
I was going to say, not sure who you're talking about. I'm going to have to go check him out.
Yeah, I don't know if your parents even met yet when he was playing, Emilio. You might have to dig through the archives.
Yeah, his nickname was Slash because he could do everything. He was kind of like, what Randall Cobb did at Kentucky, Cordell Stewart did with Pittsburgh, and I feel like he did it more effectively at Pittsburgh than Cobby did at Kentucky. And that's not a knock against Cobb. Now, Cordell never did get over the hump, but they got to the Super Bowl there against the Dallas Cowboys. And of course, Neil O'Donnell went colorblind in that game and just started throwing the ball to the other team, to the point where some people were questioning whether he threw the game. That was actually, I remember that being a topic at the time. Like, was this game fixed? Like, what? There was a fix in? So anyway, Cordell though, man, yeah, I'm with you, Tim, for sure. Which, by the way, we were talking about that 94 Green Bay Packer quarterback room the other day. Gosh, it's wild to think about. The quarterback room had Don Mikowski, right, going into that year. No, he was gone after 93. So Don Mikowski was gone, but it was Brett Favre. It was Ty Detmer, right? It was Mark Brunell, Kurt Warner. Like, I want to say three of those guys went on to – was Matt Hasselbeck in there in 94, or did he come a little bit later? I think he might have come a little bit later.
I thought he was after the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, so probably like 97 or something.
Yeah.
But, yeah, wild quarterback room. Wow. So, all right, there you go. So, again, the final on that poll question, Jordan Love leads the way here on Twitter, 57%. Matt LaFleur, actually, let me update it.
Refresh. I was going to say, would we get anything else? No.
Yeah, there it is. Jordan Love, 57%. Matt LaFleur, 32%. Brian Gutekunst, 10%. Now, on YouTube, however, a little bit different. Jordan Love, 47%. Now, Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur are tied at 27%. Far fewer votes in there. We've got 278 votes on Twitter and only 50 or 49 votes here on YouTube. So nonetheless, Jordan Love wins the poll question there. So
we lost. That's what you're saying.
Yes, we did. We lost.
Yeah. Okay.
So, all right, that's going to do it for hour one. For those of you listening on the pod, we will see you on the other side for hour two, where we're going to talk some salary cap. We appreciate y'all.
For those of you listening on the pod,
welcome into hour two. Shout out to Jacob out there on the prowl this evening. Friday evening. We know what he's up to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So salary cap. I wanted to hit a couple of different things here. What I wanted to do is look at 2026, and we've kind of had a conversation about this a little bit in terms of cap space. What is the actual cap space, this and that? According to Spot Track, all right, I did a little bit of research here. It is showing in 2026, this is next year, guys, $29.9 million in cap space. Now, keep in mind that does not include the draft, class, okay? So the draft class, a good estimation is somewhere between 12 to 15 million. So let's call it 13 million, same as this year. And obviously that's going to lower it down to a $16 million in cap space. Now, it is showing on Spot Track the rollover cap from 2025 only being 2.3 million. All right. I have a hard time believing that is accurate because the cap space we have right now is 35 million. Now, the reason I wanted to bring that up, matter of fact, let's start with that. I want to show you guys what we were talking about with Jair Alexander here and that cap hit of $17 million. Rather than spreading that out over 2 years, they chose it. You can see here the cap space this year right now as it sits is $35.9 million is what the Packers have. That's seventh most in the league. Okay. So when you go all the way to the bottom, we're going to see the dead cap hits. Jair Alexander's dead cap hit is $17 million. You still got Preston Smith's 9.8. People were going, hold up, how do you got 9.8 for Preston Smith? That's what we're talking about and doing the post-June 1. They decided to kick that 9 point. Rather than absorb the entire dead cap penalty last year, they kicked half of it to the next year. So they kind of split it there. And it's not 50-50 split, but you get the gist. Devondre Campbell this year, dead cap penalty, $7.9 million. Again, this is in 2025. Okay. So anyway, after you tally everything up, plus the $15.1 million in rollover cap from 2024, everything came into effect. Here you got the dead money of $35.3 million in dead cap money. You still finished with $35.9 million in cap space. So I say that because that I'm almost positive that full 35.9, if we don't spend any more money this year, that will roll into next year in addition to that $16 million. Now keep in mind that with that next year, what you're going to have to deal with is also filling out the roster. And that's where we're going to shift gears into the 2026 cap, what we call the salary cap table here. Okay. And well, I'm going to look at the multi-year cap table because it shows us a little bit more. I thought
that was even cool looking at those numbers, Clay. Just like we had a really high rollover ranking, then like we had a high dead money ranking, but then we also got it back down for next year's rank. Like we're like high in some of the bad ones, but then we're also green. And I mean, they're very well moving that money around.
No doubt about it, man. So if we pull up, let's just go position by position here because you got to fill out the roster too, right? We got to keep that in mind. And keep in mind there's going to be futures contracts too that do fill out the roster, but you don't want those guys taking up a 53-man spot. You want to try to improve the roster as much as you can. Let's start at the quarterback position, okay? So focus on 2026, guys, this second column here, okay? Right here, if you can see my cursor, okay? So in 2026, Jordan Love and Taylor Elgersma are the only ones under contract in the quarterback position. Malik Willis is set to be an undrafted free agent. Now, Sean Clifford will be exclusive rights free agent. You might as well put him on the roster. If they want him back, he will be back. So as it sits right now, without Malik Willis having a contract through the 2026 season, your quarterback room will be Jordan Love, Taylor Elgersma, and Sean Clifford. My question, and we'll go through each position here real quick, rapid fire, because I just want to kind of get an overview of how we're looking at this, and I want to get your all's opinion on it. How much money would you be willing to pay Malik Willis? What's your top dollar to have him back as the backup quarterback next year? And you got to keep in mind, he's going to want a 2 to 3 year deal as well, I'm sure, like as much security as he could possibly get. Let's say that he goes and hits the market and it's not inflated. No one sees him as a starting quarterback. He's going to get backup money. What's your top dollar that you would pay Malik Willis an average annual value, i.e. average salary cap hit?
As just a backup?
Just a backup. That's right.
Man, $3.5 million.
You go 3.5,
something like that.
What about you, Emilio?
If we're keeping him as a backup, we could probably pay him 9 to 12, maybe. If you're really like thinking, hey, we want to keep him around because he is our safety net, something that I don't think that's going to happen just because he's going to go off and get money in the off season, give us a contract. But if we're really trying to bend the rules and we really like Malik and we want to keep him as a backup for a couple years, I ideally wouldn't want to go into the double digits, but I'd be pretty much fine with paying him anything underneath that.
And one of the things I wanted to look at here too, and we're already getting kind of off topic, I wanted to look at positional cap rankings for quarterbacks, right? And see across the league when you look at
Colts signed Daniel Jones for what, like 12 or 14 million, something like that. And I mean, they had Anthony Richardson, so it's like
$14.5 million is what the Colts have as an average. Actually, that's the cap hit it's showing for this year. Actually, that's saying 2030. What the heck's going on here? Let's go 2026 if it'll adjust. I don't know if it will or not. This is the first time I've tried to do this at positions, so you could probably just go team by team and look at it. But yeah, when you look at player 1, player 2 on Indianapolis Colts, it's showing $14.5 million cap for 2026 if it did adjust. Now, for the rest of the league, let's just go through here real quick, okay? If this did update, Dallas, Dak Prescott's making $50.5 million. Will Greer's only making $1 million, right? So let's just let's sort it by player 2 might be the best way of doing it. Of course, it's not going to sort it by actual value. Never mind.
That's fair. Respect Orange says here, Jacoby Brissett's getting $12 million. Malik's got to be worth 14 to 15. See, 12 was kind of the max there, but I ideally wouldn't want to go into the double digits. But you bring that up, Jacoby Brissett
brought up Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, bro,
changed the whole game.
Jeez, I mean, we might be pushing 20 then.
See, I don't know. To
Put
me,
that name in my mouth right there.
What's a team willing to pay, right? What are they willing to pay Malik Willis? We were the only team in the NFL willing to give up a 7th-round pick. So the only thing that's changed since we made that trade is he went out and played 2 really good games, right? That's what it comes down to. I hope we don't see him at all this year. because, and I hate to say this because Malik's a great guy, that would tank his value as much as possible,
Right.
and we potentially keep him, right?
But you're going to see him in the
keep that
preseason.
game tape, kind of on the low too, right?
Yeah, right.
A lot
yeah.
on tape last year.
Let's get that locked
And
up.
you're going to
right?
see him a lot in the preseason this year, I would think. You know what I mean? Like he's going to get those reps. So you put on a show in preseason.
Yep.
Yeah. H.E. Solder, another one, boy. I need you guys to stop doing this, Solder. This is making me depressed.
$8 million.
Mason Rudolph getting $8 million to have his brains bashed in by Myles Garrett with his own helmet, right? Like $8 million.
These names and numbers, and I'm like, dude, we're not keeping Malik. There's just no way.
It's not looking good, is it, Tim? So here's the question. It's not really a question, but just a comment as we move on to running back. Do you just roll forward with Sean Clifford or Taylor Elgersman? I like Taylor Elgersman. So, I mean, you're going to have to learn the offense. He's got a lot to prove. Matt LaFleur loves him. He's talking about he's had a real live arm. We know he's got the mobility. The numbers he put up, granted it was in Canada, were phenomenal, right? So he won the MVP of that league that he was in, whatever league it was. So maybe he rises to the occasion there, right? Maybe you spend a draft pick, a mid-round draft pick next year, and you bring a rookie in and pray to sweet baby Jesus he doesn't see the field as well. So I hope we can get Malik Willis back. To answer my own question, $5 million would be my number. I'd be willing to pay him $5 million and not a cent more.
Yeah.
Because, if your starting quarterback goes down, the chances you win the Super Bowl anyway are slim to none. No matter how good Malik Willis played, it's just how often has that happened in the history of the NFL? Let's run back. Kurt Warner did it, right? Mm-hmm. He did it. Name another team that won the Super Bowl with their backup quarterback starting.
Philly, Nick Foles.
Nick Foles. So there's two, right? And that was both of those were, well, that one was the most recent one, right? Nick Foles.
Yeah.
And that would have
been
the
most recent one was last year, but prior to that, yeah.
What would that have been, Tim? Like 2014 or something?
Something like that, yeah. 15, something like that.
Yeah.
Help us out, chat. That was the old I remember they tried to run the same play. Brady tried to run the same play that Philly lit him up with the old Philly special. And old Tommy Boy couldn't catch the pass like Nick Foles caught it.
That's right.
That was a hell of a Super Bowl, though, and a hell of a run for them to lose their starter there going into the playoffs, and then for their backup to get it done all the way. It's pretty cool.
Coach Lamb mentions a great point here. He says, we got the money to pay Willis. Again, if my numbers are correct, after accounting for $13 million toward the draft class, and let's say we don't sign another soul and we roll $35 million into next year, we don't have to use any of that money. We're going to have to. They like to operate with an extra $7 to $12 million every year, just a little cushion, right? But if you go in, let's say you go in with $40 million next year, you can afford to pay him $8 million, right? You can afford to do that and keep Malik Willis. He said, we got the money to pay Willis. The question is, does Willis want to compete for a starting role? I could see Malik Willis being one of those guys that says, I'll take less money to have an opportunity to compete for a starting job. I think it's a great point, Coach, because he does seem like one of those dudes that money doesn't drive him. That's why I don't want to see him. It's just like Bo Melton. Like as human beings, God, they're unbelievable.
Yep.
H.E. Solder says $5 million seemed to be the viable number for a quality backup. Willis will get starter money. So, yeah, I could see it both ways. It depends on if he gets showcased this year or not. Sure. So, moving on to running back, because we are going to run out of time if we ain't careful. That was good conversation at quarterback, though, because it's again, why are we talking about this? It's June 13th. Mandatory minicamp just ended. We got over a month before training camp. Packers total access. These are the things that Brian Gutekunst and his staff are talking about right now. They're modeling the roster for next year. What's the game plan? Guys, summer practice is going on with college teams. It's going to be going on here real soon. Fall camp's going to open up. Guess what's going to happen? All these scouts are going to get their marching orders, and they're going to disperse all over the country and start scouting the next draft class, right? They've already started, first of all, but they're going to go out there and start to build the board already. So while you're doing that, you've got to have a blueprint put together. I guarantee you backup quarterback is on that blueprint. It may not be at the top of the list, but they're going, hey, guys, we need to take a swing or two at quarterback, whether it's one in the draft, one undrafted. We need to kind of set ourselves up for the next backup quarterback in Green Bay in case Malik Willis does get significant offers. So
how much of a deal was it, though, before we get off? What was it that we got him for a 7th-round pick?
Oh, my gosh, dude. Like,
Like, I mean, and then it was Mike and Wes were talking. Then the Tennessee has to go out and spend a first overall first round pick on the quarterback just after, a year or two after they spent, what was it, a third? But still, it's like, how can you get a dog like that? And then, we didn't get anything for Ja, right? We had to straight up release him. What if we had gotten a seventh for him? Would have been terrible? No, I mean, it could have turned into Malik, could have turned into anything.
Right. And I see
we paid $900,000 for him last year.
Right. So dude won 2 games for us too, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Goody, again, he wasn't leading in the poll, but that was all Goody making that move, right? So got to give credit where credit's due. All right, running back. Next year, again, focusing on the 2026 column here, guys. Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd, Jalen White, and Amar Johnson. Now, keep in mind, Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks are both restricted free agents next year. If you want them back, you'll have them back. To me, it looks like the running back room is going to stay intact next year. They might let Chris Brooks walk, but I think they're definitely going to keep Emmanuel Wilson next year. So it's going to be Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd, Emmanuel Wilson, probably Chris Brooks. Now, you can see you've got these guys, Jalen White and Amar Johnson, on 3-year deals because you signed them. It's kind of that whole futures outlook, that futures approach. So the running back room, to me, guys, looks like it's going to stay pat unless, of course, a stud falls to them in the draft and they can't pass up on it, So anything you guys want to add to the running back room, anything I'm missing there, other than the fact that if you can we give a shout out to Emmanuel Wilson? Yeah. Only $1 million against the cap last year, just balled out.
For sure. And Josh Jacobs too, man. I mean, what can you say about that guy? I'll tell you what, I'd be looking maybe 26 or 27, or maybe end of next year. I could totally see Josh Jacobs taking a restructure just to help the team and stay a Packer. He's been, outspoken about wanting to finish his career here. So I think you're right, Clay. I think we kind of know what the running back room's going to be, pending, like you said, a home run in the draft or something.
All right. Emilio, anything?
No, I think that pretty much covered it. I like Josh. I'm ready to see what Lloyd brings, and Emmanuel's the dog. I just kind of want to see who's going to fill that Chris Brooks role if we do move on from him. Who's going to play that H-back and willing to throw a shoulder, throw a block.
Marshawn Lloyd 100% healthy for the first time in the last couple of years, also going into this upcoming camp. So something to look forward to.
But he's not going to be our Chris. Is he going to be our Chris Brooks though? Like, I don't think so, right? He's not going to be the one leading the block. I feel like that. I feel like that part of the offense might even come out. Like, if it's not going to be Chris Brooks, I think Tucker's going to be maybe in the backfield where like he's going to get the fake first block or fake first handoff and then read trap and lead the counter kind of play.
And you got to ask yourself, why did Chris Brooks step into that role? The previous 2 years, Matt wanted to implement the pony package with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. You spill the whole off season. You spend the whole training camp installing that, and A.J. Dillon comes out and falls flat on his face, and then he gets hurt, and you get Chris Brooks to plug into that so you don't have to change your whole game plan up. You could still run that 21 pony, right?
Yep.
That's what I think happened there.
He's getting away from the pony then this year?
It's not necessarily he's getting away from the pony. He's getting away from 2 running backs in the
pony. 2 sidecar ponies.
Yeah, Jaden Reed now, right? He's back there. And what did you just add? Savion Williams.
Yeah.
So, I think that's kind of how.
Do you think it also could be because we maybe have a tight end he could trust? If Musgrave comes out and does a little bit better, you have another tight end you can trust instead of you could put Musgrave on the line or flex him out and then bring Tuck in the backfield. You maybe didn't feel comfortable bringing Tuck in the backfield off the line all the time.
Bring Big Ben Sims in the backfield too. Give him a crack at it.
The problem I have with that, Emilio, is that's going to show a 12 personnel, right? Yeah. Most likely. And I don't think, I go back to last year when we broke down chalk talks. We didn't have not one single chalk talk that wasn't 11 personnel with our most explosive player.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think you want to press into 11. And how do you implement pony while pressing into 11? Jaden Reed or Savion in the backfield. Yeah. That's what it kind of feels like the writing's on the wall for Chris. However, I want to keep him if we can. Mm-hmm. Stash him on the practice squad, whatever you got to do. Right.
Yep.
All right. Wide receiver room. Again, guys, keying on the 2026 column. Unrestricted free agent will be Romeo Dobbs. Unrestricted free agent Christian Watson. Unrestricted free agent Mecole Hardman. All right. So let's say those 3 are gone. And you're walking it back with the receiver room that's under contract for 2026. Here's what you got. Matthew Golden at 3.9, Jaden Reed at 2.2, Savion Williams 1.4, Dontavion Wicks 1.2, Malik Heath will be a restricted free agent, so you can get him back. Julian Fleming, then you got Cornelius Johnson and Julian Hicks, both exclusive rights free agent, and now the newly acquired Sam Brown is going to be under contract for a couple of years. At least you got rights to him for a couple of years. So with that being said, if we didn't bring any of those three players back, Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed, Savion Williams, Dontavion Wicks, Malik Heath would be your top 5. You've got room for one more. My guy will be Christian Watson.
Yeah.
Try to work out some kind of deal to bring him back. Your receiver room is back completely intact, right? That is if he comes back and he looks healthy. There's 2 problems here. Well, the main problem is Christian Watson will probably want to hit the open market, right? He'll want to kind of bet on himself there, and it'll probably be one of those deals. Most likely what's going to happen is the Packers will let him test the market, bring back your best offer. Now they got to do that cost analysis, right? Like, okay, is this the cost benefit analysis of bringing him back? Does this make sense? Now, there's a chance that they approach it the same way they did with Rashawn Gary and go to Christian Watson and go, hey, listen, man, we know your market's going to be uncertain. And they give him a little bit of an inflated number, but not necessarily a number if he hadn't hurt his knee that he would get on the open market. Does that make sense? So my approach would be, let's try to get Christian Watson back. Let Romeo Doubs walk. Let Mecole Hardman walk. And who knows, Mecole may not play as much of a role as we might anticipate. And then when you get back next season or whatever, when you go into the offseason, he'll have the same market he had before. You know, that could be the case as well. If he doesn't go out and ball out this year, the same market's going to be there for him that was this year. And what was it? $1.4 million is what he got, the veteran minimum, essentially. So what do y'all think? Would y'all look at it any different? Or?
I agree with it's either Scoot or Rome. You know, you're going to try and retain one of those 2 guys. And I could totally see your scenario playing out, Clay, where they let Scoot test the market, and then the Packers come with their offer. Like you said, we don't usually make multiple swings. Usually get one offer. Here it is. But that's a good way to kind of gauge your offer too, right? If he's unrestricted, you can kind of see what the market's looking like out there for him, and then go ahead and get your ducks in a row. And, maybe a guy like Watson would, have some deference for the Packers and want to stay here and just sign that deal. But I do think it's highly unlikely we're going to keep both Rome and Christian Watson.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. My only kind of other thought was like, all right, Rome is Jordan's go-to target, like all the time. I mean, in off-season, preseason, post. I mean, Jordan Love wants to look for him on third down, this and that. If maybe Jordan Love has a say in it or anything. And right now, not that it's nothing against Christian. He went out there because of Rome, but right now Rome is playing and Christian's not. Not that you're holding it against him, but what happens as the year goes on if Rome makes a name for himself or whatever, or he just becomes that much of a glue, how is it going to be bringing Christian Watson in later and seeing, where the team is at that point? That would kind of be my only pushback, but I would love to have him back. Seriously. I just think Jordan relies on Rome a lot and something obviously something needs to be done, but to what extent?
Let's take that $51 million. And again, if anybody else has a different number, let me know. That's what I'm calculating as the early projection for the salary cap space next year, now that we chose to absorb that $17 million from Jair. Same exact question that we asked on Malik Willis. What would be the number you put on Christian Watson? What's your top end number? Let's assume he's healthy. Let's assume he goes out in November and it's, hey, man, this dude ain't going to miss a beat. He's the old Christian Watson, right? What would be the number? Because you still got to calculate in the fact that he has been hurt a lot, right? Like we can't deny that Watson has had a problem with injuries. It sucks. I hate to say it, but it is what it is. At some point, you can't sit here and kid yourself. But what would be the top number that y'all would be willing to pay him average annual value based off the structure of the wide receiver room here? Because you got to think, and this is what we're talking about, modeling the roster out in advance. If you re-sign Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs, whichever one it is, Jaden Reed's coming up for a contract the following year, right? When was the last time the Packers paid 2 receivers top money?
Who are we? The Bengals?
Right.
Come on, now. Yeah.
What would the number be, boys? What do you think?
I'm uncomfortable answering these questions.
I
I want to see 8 to 10 games plus out of Scoot this year, hopefully, Lord willing. And then maybe I can answer that question. I don't know.
think A-Fan figured you out, Tim. He said Tim's licking his lips waiting for Jaden Higgins to hit free agency after his rookie deal. Tim said, I'll wait on you, Jaden.
Yeah, that's tough.
What did you come up with the number, Tim? Did you
No,
say
I got
I
nothing.
refuse to do it.
Tim says I'm just here so I don't get fined.
I'm gonna break out the back scratcher since Tim's being unprofessional not answering the question. I'm gonna use the back scratcher on the
I'm gonna say 15 maybe.
15?
12 to 15.
All right, then I'll go 13. So I'm there.
Nice.
There I gave you a number.
The perfect scenario for me would be they would agree to a 1-year patched up deal. Like, hey, let's give him like what did Christian Watson make this year? 2.9 million he's on the books for this year. So if you went to him and said, hey, we'll give you 1 year, 5 million if you're available all year, you know what I mean? That type of thing. You can kind of prove to the league you're healthy. We'll renegotiate at the end of the year. That would be the best case scenario. But I'm with you, Emilio. I think he would be stupid to do that. If he finishes the year healthy and proves he comes back from that ACL, you got to go get your money, man.
Yeah, you got one shot at it, right? You're coming off the rookie deal. I think he'd probably be adverse to signing anything 1 year. Prove it. But again, we don't, like you said, we don't know. What if it's another season like we've had in the past from him and it's a lot of up and down and injuries again? We don't know. Hopefully not. That's why I'm more comfortable answering this question after seeing him play some ball in 2025, hopefully.
Yeah. Ed Madden says 10 to 12 million. If he's healthy, and again, that's how I asked the question, right? You proved he was healthy. Sign me up. I would give him that. I would be willing to give both him and Romeo Dobbs 10 million per if Rome didn't run into the concussion issues and obviously the suspension last year. I said that. Remember, I said that early last year. Like, man, if you can get both of them for 10 million each, guys, that's less per year than people like T. Higgins and these guys are making. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I think 15 is where I would cap it if Christian proves he's healthy.
Soder in here dropping names again, making us angry. Darnell Mooney making 13 milli per year.
That is larceny.
Okay. In regards to the injuries, are you taking, if you had to pick one, you had both in your hands, is it Rome's injuries or Christian's injuries that you would rather take and have to deal with?
Man, my brain hurts just trying to think.
Like, that's what I'm saying. You take, all right, do I want concussions and like one off the field issue that we think is squared away, or do I want the, 2-3 injuries that, not that it's Christian's fault, I'm not saying that, but like it just happened, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Christian's injuries, in my opinion, are more concerning because Rome's concussion thing just kind of popped up last year.
Right.
Now, granted, there's no more serious injury in the NFL right now in terms of career threatening than concussions. That's for sure. Yeah. But I feel like I would feel better if you said the value is the same on both those players.
Right. Value is the same. Which injuries are you taking home?
I'm taking Christian Watson. I would bring him back over Romeo Dobbs. Okay. It's not even close for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I think there's sorry, Ron, I think there's higher upside with Christian. I think there's better leadership with Christian. I think he is the leader of that wide receiver room. I think he's everything you want in a player if he didn't have the injuries. So
his receiving is tough.
When you say 20 million per two, we're not acting like, hey, that's fully guaranteed. There could be incentives in there too, going, hey man, you can make upwards of 25 million if you stay healthy, and you hit certain statistic levels. But also if you miss time, you might make 8 million. That type of thing. You can structure it in that way. I'm thinking of a contract more along the lines of that, because I don't think there's any team in the league that would guarantee the majority of that money for Christian based on the same information.
No, that's fair. If you removed absolutely everything and you just had concussions or two like lower body injuries?
If you remove the two players, you just said either concussions or Greg Ross makes a great point. There's no fix for concussions.
That's
right.
Fair.
However, the fix is you don't take those hits, right? If someone has had soft tissue injuries consistently, and they tear an ACL and this and that. To me, that seems like more of a ongoing problem than a concussion problem. But when I hear people talk about the concussions, I think I'm wrong with that viewpoint. Like most people talk as if, oh man, like Tua, remember with Tua?
Yeah.
Like he's going to have to retire. Well, surprise, he didn't have to retire. That's why I kind of lean towards, I don't think it's as much of a career ending thing as it is just kind of bad luck. I mean, you've seen Rome try to catch that ball in his head, smack the turf. Like,
yeah, I was just going to say, one of his concussions was non-contact. He didn't even take a shot. He just fell and smacked the back of his head, you know?
And I don't feel like he puts himself in harm's way too much.
No, I don't think so either. I think he's really good at protecting himself in space most of the time, but you know, it's the NFL, man. It's going to happen.
But I want to be clear though. Like I am separating the two, Emilio. Like I
get that. No, that's all I was kind of because I feel the same way. The way Christian leads, the way he talks, all the the way he's carrying himself in the locker. Definitely, I agree on all that. I was just wondering what you would take if you had both in your hands. Which one would really be your option? And then that's just a part of okay, what are we going to do in 2026? You know what I mean? That's just a little snippet. We'll put that over in the corner in the red box for injuries. Which one would I take out of the two? All right, perfect. Now let's go over, his stats. Let's go over the kind of player he is, the kind of, the man he is, all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
Just earmarking a comment in here so I can ask you guys about it at the end here. Nobody's in trouble. Yeah. All right. Moving along, tight end. All right. Tight end. Next year, and again, we didn't get to an answer. There's one more thing here. Somebody mentioned it. Where's it at? 20 million. Somebody mentioned 20 million. They're both going to garner $20 million. I want to give credit to who said it because I don't think that's an inaccurate statement. Here we go. H.E. Soder. Both are going to command around 20 million if they play well. 100% true. If Christian Watson goes out and he's putting up over 100 yards a game and he's averaging over 20 yards a catch like he did last year, I'm okay with paying him $20 million if he proves he's healthy. Because there's your number one receiver. There's your field stretcher. And now you got Matthew Golden in the mix and a rookie contract and this and that. The problem's going to come with Jaden Reed because Jaden Reed has been your leading receiver. So just something that you're going to have to approach later on. All right, moving on to tight end. Under contract next year, Luke Musgrave at 2.6, Tucker Kraft 1.7, John Fitzpatrick will be an unrestricted free agent. Ben Sims will be a restricted free agent, so he will be back. Two guys that's been in the system for, I think, last year, if I remember correctly, on and off, Messiah Swinson and Johnny Lumpkin are both exclusive rights free agents. So I think that you probably going to want to replace John Fitzpatrick with maybe a draft pick or a nice free agent signing, somebody that's cheap that you feel a little bit better about. Maybe someone you had a decent draft grade on 4 or 5 years ago type guy. Sure. But next year, you're looking at Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft coming back for pennies on the dollar, especially Tucker Kraft. $1.7 million next year. My God, he's making $1.5 million this year, and he had arguably the best tight end year in Packers history last year when we really broke down the average numbers in terms of EPA when targeted and all those things. So, what do you guys? Anything you want to add to the tight end? Because I feel like that's pretty cut and dry there. Ben Sims will be back. You'll give Messiah Swinson and Johnny Lumpkin a chance to make the roster, and you'll probably add another camp body or two to see if you can find another Ben Sims type guy.
And I still think there's a chance you can keep Ben Sims. I mean, he's restricted free agent, right? So that just means he's going to test the market, right? And you get a chance to meet or beat an offer, right? And then maybe a good scenario would be a guy like Messiah Swinson stepping up this year and all of a sudden making some noise in that tight end room. Might make this decision a little bit easier down the road. But I think I'm with you, Clay. It might be time for a mock draft. Start looking at tight ends. Because I think you're right. I love John Fitzpatrick, but beyond 26, after this year, it's probably a wrap for him.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I do think that obviously we're set with Luke and Tucker. And Ben Messiah and all of them are going to get a chance to come back. I think you're right. We'll probably just go ahead and pull the trigger on one. The only other time is if one of them gets cut that maybe we liked in this year's draft. If they got signed as a a free agent or whatever, and they don't make that 53, maybe we pick them up and throw them on the practice squad this year, work them through, see if we don't, like something else there, and then keep going.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the last topic of the night here. Still under the same umbrella topic, but this is going to be the fun one here. Offensive
Look at this
line.
mess.
Yeah, look at this mess, Tim said. All right. So in 2026, returning under contract as it sits right now, Elton Jenkins, 24.8. Aaron Banks, 24.8. Zach Tom is set to be an unrestricted free agent. Rasheed Walker is set to be an unrestricted free agent. You got Jordan Morgan returning at $3.8 million. That's why you want him at left tackle, so you don't have to pay Sheed, right?
Right.
Sean Ryan, unrestricted free agent. Trey Hill, unrestricted free agent. Jacob Monk will be returning. Travis Glover will be returning. Tim, that was not you, was it?
You know it wasn't me, man. You know it wasn't me.
Kadeem Telford will be an exclusive rights free agent, so you can get him back if you want him. There's John Williams, Tyler Cooper, J.J. Lip, however you say his name, Brant Banks, and then Donovan Jennings, exclusive rights free agent. So, again, returning next year under contract as it sits right now, Elton Jenkins, Aaron Banks, Jordan Morgan, Jacob Monk, Travis Glover, John Williams, Tyler Cooper, J.J. Lip, Brant Banks, and then Donovan Jennings. You got 10 under contract for next
So we
year.
ignore the numbers on Elton, right? Because he's obviously he's looking to rework a deal right now. So these are going to change.
I wouldn't say we would ignore it, Tim, but if he's going to be on the roster, they're going to have to adjust that, right? That's what you're saying. They're going to have to.
I would think so, right? And then it would probably keep him here at least till 2028, maybe something like that, or beyond slightly.
Or, and I hate to say this, if he's not willing to adjust or they're not willing to adjust the terms he wants, and they move forward with their original plan, they may be looking to cut bait in 2026. And just so you guys know, that $24.8 million cap hit right here, the dead cap attached is only 4.8. Boys and girls, that means if you cut Elton next year,
saving
you
20
free
million.
up $20 million in cap space. Right?
$20 million.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room. We all agree Zach Tom is going to get paid. He's going to get a big contract, right? So if we include him on this roster, and we've kind of modeled this out a little bit already, I'm including Zach Tom on my roster. We're paying him. He's coming back. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. The big question becomes, like Tim pointed out, Elton Jenkins, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the big one. Other than that, everything else is in place already, right? So if you model it out in the future here, let's say even at Elton at that 24.8, remember what we just talked about. You've got, we're showing 51 million in cap space. Let's say it's closer to 40. Let's play it safe here, okay? 40 million cap space. If you bring Christian Watson back at $20 million per, right? So now you're down to 20 million. Boys, now again, that's not going to fall evenly distributed. So that cap number the first year will be lighter. Typically that's how Goody does it. He'll pay more cash up front, free up cap space in the first year or two of the deal, and then you kind of get the inflated cap hit numbers on the backside, but the guaranteed money's gone, where you can get out of it. Like we always say, a 4-year deal is really a 3-year deal. A 3-year deal is really a 2-year deal. But the point is, you're already seeing a scenario where you might have to choose between Zach Tom and Christian Watson. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So if you can shave off $8 to $10 million off the Elton Jenkins contract with a restructure, then that looks a little more palatable. But if you see what I'm talking about? Like, if they don't do anything with Elton, you can cut bait with Elton, and now your $40 million with $10 million cushion goes to $60 million next year, and now you have no problem signing Christian Watson and Zach Tom. And I know there's people going, whoa, I would rather have Elton Jenkins back than Christian Watson. I understand that, but when was the last time Goody re-signed a 31-year-old offensive lineman?
Right.
Precedent, right? So
and now
that's the floor.
Was Scoot and Zach Tom, they were the same draft class, correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Yes.
So Rome, Scoot, and Zach Tom all coming off rookie deals here. Yeah, Zach Tom's got to get paid, man. That's my guy. I mean, if you're talking about, he's the best offensive lineman on our team, right? I don't think that's even really up for debate at this point. So, I love Scoot, but my vote would be get Zach Tom in the fold for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Soda says, I don't know if he's pulling actual numbers or just guessing. He may be looking at the market value for these players. He said Tom is around 20 to 25 million. Run the check now. Rasheed Walker around 20. I'm plugging Jordan Morgan in at left tackle and moving on from Rasheed. That's me personally. And then you pick up a comp pick there. Sean Ryan is at least 10 million. His pass blocking last year, I think they said he graded out the 32nd best. It was in the 30s. Best pass blocking grade amongst guards, which is surprising because that's top 64, Emilio. That's starting caliber. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that he said it about Tom. Go ahead, Emilio.
No, that's tough. I think, because you already signed Aaron Banks, right? So it's like you kind of committed to him over Elton by giving him that longer deal. We can't get out of Aaron's next year, right? So,
right.
It's you kind of made that decision. You have to pay Tom. Maybe you can get away with paying 3, but like Tim was saying, we have the wide receiver core coming up too. Then right after that, you got Jaden Reed, and then right after that, you're gonna have to pay somebody else. You're gonna have to pay your D line. You're gonna have to pay the secondary. So it's
Edrin Cooper is gonna need a real big contract before you know it, right?
Dude, that's the problem. I mean, how old was? Do you remember how old Bach was when he got his last contract? Was he 29?
It's so it was probably 28 or 29. It's so rare that they get the third contract like that. And again, you say you use that as precedent, right? Because I've kind of leaned in that direction too. But do you think Goody doesn't have a sour taste in his mouth from how
exactly?
So that's something to take into consideration too. You mentioned about Aaron Banks. So in 2026, his cap hit is 24.8 million. The dead cap attached is 20.2. So you could cut bait in 2026, but you're only going to free up less than $4 million. That's just silly. Or right at $4 million. That's silly. 2027, like you were saying, he turns 30. Cap hits 22.2. Dead cap is 13.5. So you could free up $9 million if you cut bait in 2027. But 2028, to me, Emilio, seems like the year that they're going to move on. His cap hit jumps or falls back down to 20.7, but the dead cap is only 6.7.
Right.
So you can free up $14 million in 2028. So I think he's here definitely through 2026, most likely through 2027, but you're probably not going to bring him back for 28.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So again, the whole purpose here was to just take a look at the salary cap projection for 2026 and kind of come up with a rough number. I feel comfortable saying between 35 and 45 million in cap space as it sits right now. If you guys see or hear anything else, let me know. I seen a couple tweets go out the other day that made it sound like we're actually over the cap in 2026. I don't know how they're coming up with that. I have no clue what they're talking about there. But then again, that was definitely before the Jair news as well. So not that extra 10 million, if they had split it up, you could have went 10 million for 2026. That still wouldn't even put you over the cap next year. So you guys, if you hear something else, let me know for sure. So that's what we're looking at, man. The big question marks, and this is just offense. We'll do defense tomorrow if we do a show. The big question marks on offense on who you're going to sign. Like, what are the big decisions you got to make? Malik Willis, what's your top number to bring back a very good backup quarterback? You're set at running back. What do you want to pay Christian Watson if he proves he's healthy, right? You're going to re-sign Zach Tom. Do you try to keep Elton Jenkins? These are the things that Goody's thinking about as he gets ready to send his scouts out to do the business this year, right?
Yep.
So he's probably looking at, like they always are, look, guys, we're probably going to end up drafting 2 or 3 offensive linemen. That's what we're going to end up doing there. Wide receiver-wise, probably won't spend a whole lot of time scouting wide receiver. Now, you're going to be prepared, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be like this year. Why did they invest in 2 draft picks at wide receiver this year? Because Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson are coming up for contract, and you don't know if they're even going to prove that they're worth the deal, right? Watson may not be healthy. Romeo Doubs may take a step back, so you kind of covered your bases there. Going to be a lot of fun to see how it all unfolds. Marco Day says, will the cap go up next year? It will. It goes up every year. Now, I had the projected cap space here, and again, this is just a projected number. But if I go to 2026, the projected number, according to Spot Track right now, to answer your question, is $307.1 million. Now, to put that
Let
in,
Goody cook.
so remember that number for me, 307. Okay. To put that into perspective, this year the cap was $279.2 million. So they're expecting it to jump that much. So
that's another player. I mean,
it is. Now, again, the number that those folks came up with, saying that we're already over on the cap, they may have been looking at the 2025 salary cap number, not taking into consideration that it was going to raise again, right? So just keep that in mind. And again, that's also taking into consideration the $35 million in rollover cap that we got. I'm still amazed at how many people don't understand that we roll that money over. It's like there's folks that are going, why aren't we spending that money? Go spend that money. No, you get to keep that next year. Like, you get to use that next year too. Like, your roster is built. Who are you going to go spend $30 million on right now? Trey Hendrickson. Okay, I got you.
We're not going to pay Ellen, who's 30 and been with the team for the entire year or for his entire career, but we'll go ahead and pay Trey.
And I want to be clear. If it got announced tomorrow that we traded a second-round pick for Trey Hendrickson, I wouldn't be going, this is stupid. I'd be going, boy, they pushed their chips in the middle of the table, right? Because you're going to have to extend Trey Hendrickson and your mortgage in the future on a guy who's already 30 years old. But you're saying, let's really try to push this thing across the finish line. And
taking snaps from LVN.
Right.
And Mike and Wes said that Barron Sorrell was playing edge across from Rashawn Gary on a couple reps.
Mm-hmm. I think Barron Sorrell is going to surprise us. Man.
So,
I really do. I think it's Barron Sorrell at edge. I think they'll try to settle Colin Oliver in at stack backer. And that extra added value of being able to play multiple positions like we talked about. I also think that you're going to see Colin Oliver hop on special teams and probably be a bit of a dog there too. So one thing I do feel comfortable is kick coverage. I feel like we got a lot better this offseason. I mean, you added multiple guys. Yeah. You brought back Zane Anderson. You've got Isaiah McDuffie, who was kind of our special teams ace for a long time before he started playing a little more stack backer. You brung in Isaiah Simmons. That he graded out in the 80s or the 90s, according to PFF special teams grade last year. You went and got Colin Oliver, who I think is just, with that RAS, his athletic ability, he just feels like a dude that's going to go screaming down the field on kickoffs.
Right.
So I think you did improve in that aspect. Oh, by the way, Brandon McManus is just hitting clutch kicks in camp from 50.
Yeah, like 58 yarders, like no problem. Probably into the wind too. No big deal.
All right. Tomorrow, guys, we will look at the defensive side of the ball in terms of salary cap, for 2026 and kind of get a little bit better idea of that. And then once we move on from that topic, we're going to start jumping into some of our off-season stuff. What we'll probably do is some chalk talks. Emilio, you want to do a third down chalk talk? I think that's a great idea. We got a Josh Jacobs chalk talk queued up. Also want to do like top plays, like Jaden Reed's top plays, do a chalk talk episode on that. Tucker Kraft's top plays, chalk talk on that. Rashawn Gary chalk talk on, so on and so forth. Carrington Valentine, all those dudes. So we'll kind of end when we get through all the chalk talks. Then what we'll probably do is go into a quick recap from last year and just kind of, okay, here's how the season went. Let's look at the box scores. Let's look at, kind of what we did the other day with just the NFC North matchups. And then we'll get into our series of camp battles and get you guys kind of a preview on the training camp. So it'll be a lot of fun. But
love it.
Anything else, boys? Anything at all?
Happy birthday to my mom. I'm not sure if she's listening tonight.
Mama.
It's mom's birthday, so happy birthday to mom.
Let's go.
Best wishes. See you soon, and all that good stuff.
Good stuff. Happy birthday, Mama.
Happy birthday.
Sure glad you put up with this knucklehead for 18 years so we can have him on the show. It's working. Nah. All right. It's hilarious. You're wishing your mama a happy birthday. I got a call from Dad at 2 a.m. last night wondering, do I need to drive to Kentucky and post bail? You know what I mean? He just hanging out, you know what I mean? Just wanting to talk to his boy. And I'm like, Dad, I got to get up at 6, bro. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? So anyway, yeah, gave him that. Scolding my dad for staying up too late. So anyway,
Clayton woke up looking like, what the hell?
Yeah. I was worried because he called me during the show And as soon as the show was over, I called him back. He didn't answer. 30 minutes later, called him back, didn't answer. Called him back, didn't answer. I'm like, I text my sisters like, hey, everything good? Like, hadn't heard from Dad, but he called. And then lo and behold, I get a call at like 1:32 in the morning. I'm like, yeah, everything's fine. He's good. He's he's just out there, LIVIN. So that's it. You got it, Mark. You are Irish. Yes, sir. That is correct. That is correct. Nothing like a redneck Bacher family with Irish roots from Kentucky, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the Bailey house. So anyway, everybody have a wonderful evening. We appreciate y'all. And we will see you tomorrow. Most likely, we might take a night off. I'm going to be down your way tomorrow, Emilio. So I'm going to go spend the day in K-Town and might be off tomorrow, but we'll let y'all know if we do decide to do a show. But thanks, everybody. Hit that like button on the way out. Check out our Patreon group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. It's the best way to support the show. Everybody stay safe out there. It's Friday night and AFAM's on the loose. Look at that mustache. You got to be careful. All right?
Jacob's out there too. Be careful.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. Jacob was like, should I do a show tonight or should I go run around with the women? And this was his response.
Here we go.
Bye, guys.